Good morning. My name is Wahab Almuhtadi, and I'm the president of Consumer Electronics Society. This is the IEEE Consumer Electronics Society TV, and in abbreviation it is CSOC TV. Today we have our guest, Stephen Welby. Welcome, Steve.
Good to be here, Wahab.
Mr. Welby is the Chief Operation Officer and the IEEE Executive Directors. Thank you and welcome to the CSOC TV show.
I'm very glad to be here.
Thank you. As you know, today is the IEEE Conference on Consumer Electronics. We call it sometimes International Conference on Consumer Electronics Society. It is in Vegas, and it started today and will last for 3 days here in Vegas, just before the Consumer Electronics Show.
Yes.
And we are happy that you attended the Board of Governors meeting yesterday of the society itself. And I am glad that you attended also, and you have been a guest speaker for the conference too.
It's an exciting start to a great meeting here. We have got a lot of attendees, a terrific program, some really great papers coming, and I think a fantastic list of keynote speakers. So I'm very excited to be here at ICCE.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Steve. It is exciting to see that you do have a fantastic and outstanding background history in your career and experience, and that package is coming to IEEE, and you became the executive director of IEEE and the operation and the chief operation officer of IEEE. Can you just tell me briefly about your long outstanding experience?
I've had a very lucky career. My background education, my undergraduate degree was in chemical engineering, but my graduate work was in both computer science and in applied mathematics. I've had a chance to work as a bench researcher in a laboratory to lead research teams. I spent 10 years at an organization called DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Project Organization here in the United States, where I got a chance to work on things that range from the birth of private space launch to some of the very earliest work on really effective commercial applications of autonomous vehicles, the driverless vehicle challenges that we ran in the 90s. I had a chance to participate in that. I've worked in industry, in the aerospace industry, and in 2009, shortly after the election, I received a call from the White House and was asked by President Obama to serve as the chief engineer of the U.S. Department of Defense, and it was a fantastic opportunity to lead an enormous body of engineers. In 2015, the President nominated me, and the U.S. Senate confirmed me as the Chief Technology Officer of the U.S. Department of Defense, where I managed a $12.5 billion research budget globally, and really had a chance to get an opportunity to see what was happening across the planet on the future of technology. And after I left that role, the IEEE board came and asked if I'd be interested in working with IEEE, and I found it a fantastic opportunity to think about the future of technology and to think about the future of the technical profession. And I'm really pleased to be able to help lead the IEEE staff and support the IEEE president in executing our programs globally, our conference programs, our publication programs, all of our humanitarian activities, to help lead the global staff in executing the mission that the volunteers and members of IEEE bring to us.
Fantastic. This is really great. I mean, to take just from that experience that you have, and IEEE is huge organizations. It is global organizations. We have almost 500,000 members and 46 technical societies and technical councils, and so IEEE became a huge organization that has impact on on the world stage.
Right, right.
So I do have some question for you, if you don't mind. And some of them is since you are the CEO or an executive director of IEEE, what is the strategy plan for 2020, 2025?
IEEE had a strategy for 2015 to 2020, a 5-year strategic plan. And of course now we're in 2020, so we're off into the next 5 years. And for the last year, IEEE has been looking to ask what needs to change in our strategic plan, what should be our strategy for the next 5 years. We conducted workshops around the world, focus groups, surveyed our global membership. We surveyed companies and organizations, non-members, about what they thought about IEEE. And the IEEE Board of Directors spent an enormous amount of time, both as committees and as a full board, thinking about exactly what IEEE wants to be in the future and how do we express that in a way that really captures our intent. Over the next year, we're going to be talking about and publicizing the new IEEE strategic plan. And it really has 5 themes, 5 goals that IEEE is dedicating itself to for 5 years. Same big vision. IEEE's overall mission is to advance technology for the benefit of humanity. But we see how we're going to do that coming to 5 key areas. One is to drive global innovation through a broad collaboration and sharing of technology. One is to improve the public understanding of engineering and technology. We heard some about that this morning. And one of the ways we want to do that is through standards, which is an important part of our engagement with the public. IEEE wants to be a trusted source of educational services and resources that help our members and help the profession engage in continuous lifelong learning. And I think that's a new change to our direction, to really emphasize the educational opportunities for our members, not just what we do for undergraduate students and for pre-undergraduate engineering education, but really to focus on our members and the need to continually refresh themselves over their careers. IEEE is rededicating itself to focusing on career and professional development activities.
Right.
And then finally, and I think maybe one of the most important goals, is that we want to inspire audiences around the world to build communities that can help advance technology, help advance the way that technology can impact the way that we live as societies, that can bring technology to bear through public policy and through education and through the impact of the organization to make the world a better place. And so I think those are the 5 main goals, and we want to do all that with an eye towards making sure that we're addressing issues of diversity, inclusion, and openness. We want to welcome everyone to contribute. And then finally, we want to be thinking about IEEE in the long term, not just about tomorrow's IEEE, but the IEEE we leave to future generations. And so how do we ensure that we're always working today and thinking about tomorrow? And so I think it was an enormous effort over the last year, but I really think it puts us in a good place to think about the future of IEEE.
I think there are 5 important pillars in the strategic plan, and that's maybe will boost IEEE to move forward.
And I think there's going to be a lot of work over the next year or two as we try and live up to those goals that we've set for ourselves.
Right. So what is the social impact since IEEE is a global organization, and how do you see the IEEE as a social impact globally?
We often think about IEEE as, through our technical lens, right? Through the publications and the technical conferences and the technical societies. We're a very technical organization, of course. Sometimes we think about IEEE as a professional organization. We look at the body of engineers and our student members and our chapters around the world, the regional organization as a membership organization. But ultimately, our members and the technologies they work in are for a purpose, right? And I really like our very simple mission vision statement: advancing technology for humanity.
Right.
And I look at the things that we do for humanity. We're advancing. All of our technical work is, in fact, has social impact. It's to accelerate technology to help solve world problems. IEEE also has very direct impact through the work that we're doing, the direct humanitarian activity that we do through things like CITE or through the work going on around the world in countries around the world, the many programs that IEEE, direct humanitarian programs that IEEE runs. I see our educational activities as core to our social responsibility and the things that we're doing to bring technical lesson plans to classrooms around the world in a variety of languages and focused on a variety of needs. The work we do in accreditation and other things are really about building an engineering capacity for the world, right? And then I also see the strong social impact from our work on addressing bigger policy issues, whether it be the public policy work we're doing in countries around the world, when politicians in Brussels are asking how are they going to wrestle with complex technology issues, they often turn to IEEE for advice. When folks in Washington have those kind of questions, when folks in New Delhi have those kind of questions, when folks in Beijing have those kind of questions, we represent a voice of the technologist, and people really value that. And I think that allows us to address kind of key emergent problems. One big discussion that IEEE has been really leading the world in over the last few years has been the discussion about the ethics of artificial intelligence and the role of engineering ethics in some of the complex technologies we're working in. And IEEE has built a global community around those kind of topics with an amazing mix of multidisciplinary experts, and we're having real impact. So that I think you can look at the IEEE through a couple lenses: a technical lens, a membership lens, and also that impact lens. And I think that may be the most important.
So since IEEE is a huge organization and has almost 500,000 members, and it has huge system, I mean, from Explorer to database and all kinds of things, I mean, so how can we protect, the cybersecurity now and emails security and the conference itself? I mean, our conference today, the theme is security and privacy by design. I mean, this is the theme of the conference today. So, what are the measures IEEE is taking to protect the data and to protect the system, the complex system of IEEE?
Well, I mean, we have to live what we say, of course, right? And we want our members, we want everyone who shares activity with IEEE to trust that we will be able to protect their data, to be able to protect their privacy. And we've invested over the last 2 years very significantly in addressing both the European privacy regulations, GDPR, and the need for consent for handling individual data, all the systems required to manage that data properly. And that's allowing us to address new issues like the California privacy regulations and many of the other global privacy regulations that are coming up. And so we want to be not just compliant, but leading in addressing those kind of needs with our systems. At the same time, we've been investing in increasing our cybersecurity capabilities, so protecting IEEE systems. We're under attack every day, just as any large system is. And we've been upgrading our technical infrastructure, both the physical plant and our cloud-based capabilities, to ensure that we're using state-of-the-art cyber protection tools to protect our members and volunteers. But a piece of that also falls on our members and volunteers. The weakest link often is the user, and we've been trying over the last year to help educate our members and volunteers to help protect themselves against the challenges of cybersecurity, to be skeptical about what they receive, and to help protect themselves by taking advantage of the tools we offer. We just rolled out last month a multi-factor authentication system across all of the IEEE email systems worldwide. And I think that's, again, just the latest of a variety of investments and tools we've made to protect our members.
As you know, as I mentioned, that we have 39 societies and 11 councils. We do have around 1,600 conferences every year, and we are attracting about 450,000 attendees from around the globe.
Right.
And this conferences these conferences have a big impact. I mean, on technology, and the Consumer Electronics Society also has international conferences
Right.
in Vegas, in Berlin, in Asia. And, what my question is, what are the measures? And you know that there is IEEE meetings, conferences, and events, MCE. They are trying to implement a good policy and procedure to make these conferences sounds, with high quality.
Right.
So, I want to talk about the concentration bank account. So, is IEEE planning to have some system that under one account for this conference, because we have huge conferences?
Yep. Yeah. So our conferences are enormously important, both from what happens at our technical conferences helps to accelerate the pace of technological change. It brings experts together to network and to find new collaborations. I think it's one of the critical things that IEEE does is convene the community through these kind of meetings, right? And the scale of our meetings range from very small local events where we might have a few hundred folks around a particular technical area, to some of our large conferences, which are tens of thousands of people and enormous logistics challenges. For all of these, we want to make it as easy as possible to the societies and particularly to the conference organizers to do their business, whether that be receipt of papers and review and all the things required through those activities, be it the contracting process by which people get hotels and systems and everything organized to support themselves, whether it be the financial matters people have to deal with as we go through. And so we've been looking at all those systems and looking at investments in improving the quality of the systems we provide to conference organizers to help them support their activities. And one piece, as you mentioned, is those financial tools about how we budget and manage the checkbook, account for and close the conference at the end, to ensure that everything can be accounted for and properly. And our conference organizers don't want to be accountants. They're interested in their communities. And they want to build build the technology communities that they're part of. And so we've got to find ways to reduce the burden on them, allow them to do their jobs efficiently. And so the biggest impact I think we're going to see. The IEEE board approved an investment in a new financial tool suite across IEEE that should impact societies and councils, it should impact conference organizers, it should impact all of our local member activities, with one integrated, user-friendly approach to managing finances at events like councils. Basically, project management tools where your conference will have its own kind of budget, its own accounting system, its own electronic checkbook, if you will, and take us out of the paper-heavy processes that have dominated in the past.
Which is very good.
So it's that's not a small activity. It's going to be a lot of work over the next 18 months. But we've brought on experts to help us interview. We've interviewed dozens of conference organizers, small and large, for example, to understand their unique challenges. And those are all being captured for the requirements for future systems.
Excellent, thank you. IEEE, very well known worldwide for its standards. And the Consumer Electronics Society, the Communication Society, the Power and Energy Society, and Signal Processing, etc., etc. So the Consumer Electronics Society has now 62 powers.
Standard projects that are running.
Standards projects, yes. And they are all of them active, which put the society on top of other society. So how many standards now we have almost?
If I have the number right, I believe it's the last number I saw was 1,600 open standards projects, and
right.
I guarantee that number's out of date because we have intake going on continuously. Standards have an enormous impact, and I think folks don't appreciate just the impact standards have in building industries, in helping to build industries, in helping to improve safety and interoperability of products. It's an economic engine that companies and industries are built around the ability for IEEE standards to shape ecosystems, and I think they have enormous impact. The number of standards is less important than the impact, right? But I see the nature of the standards that IEEE is working on has been changing to reflect the demands of the communities. We're seeing a lot of very interesting new work in areas that we haven't been involved in the past. Automotive electronics, for example, is an area that there's lots of interest at the moment. There's a lot of standards work going on around autonomous vehicles and drone standards. It's areas that IEEE has not been involved in. And a lot of energy in terms of standards for privacy and data. And I think that's a topic that, again, is the core of this conference, and it's something that IEEE has been very actively involved in helping to build and shape the standards ecosystem around. So I think standards is an enormously important part of IEEE, but one that we often don't pay as much attention to as some of the other parts.
Stephen, I would highly appreciate your existence and participation in this conference.
Sure.
Your talk today was great, and also I want to thank you very much for your support and move the approval of name change. I mean, from Consumer Electronics Society to Consumer Technology Society. So I'm really happy that our society now has the new name IEEE Consumer Technology Society.
Well,
how do you see that?
I think the board of directors supported that change in September. My role was simply to help move that along, but I think I appreciate the change reflects the broadening nature of consumer technologies. And I was reflecting earlier about when I talk to young people, I talk to students about what they'd like to do with their engineering degrees, what companies they'd like to work for, what sectors they'd like to be involved in. The answers I almost always get are consumer technology areas, right? They're interested in gaming. They're interested in portable devices. They're interested in VR, AR. They're interested in all the now software-enabled devices. They're interested in personal health devices.
Right.
They're interested in these kind of devices. And I was thinking that if when I was younger, the companies that folks admired in, say, the 70s and 80s were, oil and gas companies. They were, they were large aerospace firms. They were. So there's been a change from this focus on often kind of business-to-business, large industrial concerns, to companies that are having an impact on individuals' lives in a deep way. Consumer technologies that are apparent and visible in our daily lives. And across IEEE, one of the group that's most directly involved, the organization that has the clear charter for being engaged with these mass-produced direct-to-consumer devices is CES, now CTS. And I think the change in name really reflects the nature of the changing technology in the space, the nature of the changing industry in the space, and the importance of these technologies of this sector in impacting individual lives. And so I think it's great for the society, yes. And I think it reflects a better way to communicate with the public about what you do.
Thank you very much.
Super. Great chatting today.
Thank you.
Be well.
Thank you.
Thanks.